Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. Welcome back here in this episode number 2 of the Resto Druid Guide for Legion PvP. We will be going over the Honor Talent system. We're going to be trying to build a cookie-cutter Resto Druid build for PvP, so if you're just interested in logging on and playing and having some fun, you don't really want to stress yourself thinking through all the talents of what situation, this video should help you decide that. So I hope you enjoy. Let's get started. So this first row of talents is called basically the Trinket talent tree. You can pick whatever kind of way you want to get out of CC. The Gladiator's Medallion is a 2-minute cooldown trinket that removes all crowd control effects. It's basically the same as your PvP trinket. You don't have a PvP trinket anymore, so this talent will give you that back. It's probably the most standard option. Obviously, because we're still in beta, a lot of people haven't tested out the other options. This one is just kind of your bread and butter basic choice. But when we move to an adaptation, this is an automatic trinket. It's half of the cooldown, but you don't decide what it trinkets. It's going to trinket whatever the first CC that hits you is with a 5-second duration or higher. I've actually found a couple of clever uses for this. A lot of the classes have had their crowd control pruned down, so sometimes when you're fighting a melee cleave, the longest CC that they have is a 5-second stun. And it's going to happen every minute. So being able to remove that stun every minute completely negates their stun lockdown and actually has a decent purpose. I would say that this talent is only weak when the opposing team knows that you're running it and has options to deal with it, like a longer CC, like Blind or Polymorph. But if they don't have access to that long CC and you know that they've only got a stun every minute, this talent actually serves a pretty decent purpose. And then moving into the Relentless talent tree. Now for a Resto Druid, this talent is not as strong. This talent is very powerful in the hands of an Orc player, so if you're playing a class that can play an Orc, I suggest you try Relentless out. It's going to reduce all of your crowd control by 25%, and that scales with your Orc ratio to reduce stuns. So it's very powerful in the hands of an Orc, but for a Resto Druid, you're probably not going to take this talent. Now, this row of talents is very interesting. I would imagine with more testing, we're going to see different ideas. But overall, I find Defender of the Weak, where if you're healing a target below 50%, you will gain 20% haste. Basically, if your team is rotting down or someone's consistently below half health, you will have just 20% haste. It's very powerful, extremely strong. Doesn't really have any flaws to it, which is why I would say it's more of the cookie cutter talent choice. When we look at Vim and Vigor, when you are at above 80% health, so if we're not getting attacked, we know we're going to get CC'd, we'll get a passive healing increase of 20%. This is powerful as well, if not more powerful than Defender of the Weak. However, you can be punished for taking this talent by the enemy team attacking you and making sure that you're never above 80% HP. And at this moment in Legion, attacking healers is a very powerful strategy, which is why I find that this talent falls off and is too easily punished. Then moving into Inner Renewal, casting effective heals on yourself directly will refund 50% of the spell's mana cost. Now, at the moment in the Legion beta, I've run into a couple of games where I run out of mana, but it's just weak. I mean, only healing yourself. Maybe if you healed one other person or anyone really, it would have more use. But overall, right now, I don't see mana as a huge issue. Obviously, as scaling and PvP templates get tuned more, I'm sure that mana will become an issue, which then makes this talent a potential option. But overall right now, if you're looking for your cookie cutter build, Defender of the Weak is easily the strongest. Then moving down to the third row, we have Disentanglement. Healing Touch and Regrowth remove all snare effects from the target. So if you're healing a melee cleave, or anyone really, and they're getting rooted or slowed, you can cast a quick Regrowth on them. You can remove that root and slow with your casted heal. Now this is something that I take when I'm healing against caster-based teams, simply because the other two options don't offer anything in that specific matchup. So if you're fighting two casters or a mage that doesn't have a melee class on his team, I find Disentanglement to be the best. Then moving into Thorns, which I've put as my cookie cutter option as long as there's a melee on the other team. You can almost use it as a defensive cooldown. When your partner is getting attacked or you're getting attacked, you can put Thorns on them, and if they want to keep attacking them, they're going to take some damage back. You can set up swaps with it. I think it's a really cool ability. I'm glad to see Thorns back. I think it's much more useful in this form that they've created in Legion, which is why I would put it as my cookie cutter choice for Resto Druid. Then Druid of the Claw. This is a talent that I have not experimented with very much, but it will reduce the chance that you're critically hit while in bear form by 10%, making bear form even more powerful, as well as grant you a 10% chance to cast a rejuve while you're in bear form. So bear form is easily your most powerful cooldown to survive against melee classes. I went over that a little bit in the previous video, so benefiting your bear form even more, not a bad idea. If you think you're going to get trained down, you need more healing, you need more survivability, I would definitely suggest Druid of the Claw. But overall, I've been having a lot of fun with Thorns, so again, up to you. Now moving into the CC tier of our honor talents, Cyclone. Yeah, we missed it. It was gone in the pre-patch, but while you level through the honor system, you will be able to access Cyclone again. Now, it is a very long cast time and a short range, as I went over in the previous video, so it's still an extremely powerful crowd control. Definitely kind of your auto lock-in talent choice, but there are a couple of other options. So Encroaching Vines, when your Entangling Roots is basically removed at all, that target's physical damage is reduced by 25% for 4 seconds. Now, 4 seconds to me isn't long enough. I honestly haven't experimented with this talent enough. You don't really have a lot of time to cast Entangling Roots with how high damage is. You're almost always casting healing spells unless you can get a break with a defensive cooldown. So overall, I haven't found much use for it. Now, that may change. I might experiment more with it, but overall, I feel like Cyclone is more powerful. You can just reduce their damage by 100%. For longer duration by cycloning them. So it makes more sense to me that Cyclone would be more powerful. Now, on the other hand, Deep Roots will then make your Entangling Roots no longer break on damage. So if you're playing a damage comp, you're playing a melee cleave or with a Warlock, and you can root someone in the middle of the map, that root won't break. Your Elemental Shaman or whoever you're playing with can just cast on him, blow him up. He's stuck in that root. He can't move unless he's dispelled or freedomed or has his healer, his team support him. So overall, Deep Roots is also very powerful if you're playing a damage-based composition with melee or a Warlock. So you could switch between Deep Roots and Cyclone depending on what composition you're playing. If you're playing a CC comp, obviously going to go with Cyclone. If you're playing a damage comp, you're going to try Deep Roots. Then moving down here, we have Nourish. Now, if you played in Wrath of the Lich King, you will know what Nourish means. It's a very fast casted heal. And what this talent does is it turns our Healing Touch into Nourish. So every time, it will just reduce our cast time of Healing Touch by 0.5 seconds. Healing Touch at the moment is 2.3, so it's below 2-second cast. Now, this is where if you pair it with Abundance, for every rejuvenation you have out, you can reduce the cast time by 10%. So 2 rejuves on myself, 2 rejuves on my partner, 2 rejuves on my other partner. That's a lot of reduction in cast time. So if you're going to run Nourish, you almost always run Abundance with it as well. And that will make your Healing Touch less than almost half a second. It's an insanely fast Healing Touch cast. It's very mana efficient. And if you think that you're not going to get attacked, you're going to have a lot of time to cast, I think it's a very fun talent to take. But overall, I find it can be weak when you pair it up against Revitalize. So when targets with your Rejuve are attacked by a melee critical attack, they will be healed for an extra 46,000, and the duration of your rejuvenation will be refreshed. So you get a free rejuvenation, you get an extra bonus heal when a melee DPS attacker crits. It's just an extra heal. It's very powerful. I would definitely think of it as the cookie cutter build if that's what you're looking for, but you could definitely think a little bit and switch to Nourish, and then moving into Fortifying Bark. Targets with your Iron Bark take a 25% reduced chance to be critically hit. Now, Iron Bark on its own is already very powerful with the talent that we take, Stone Bark, which I went over in the previous video. You don't really need to make it any more powerful. Honestly, you don't. It will not benefit you so much as Revitalize as an extra heal, or Nourish to create your Healing Touch to be super, super fast. It's not that flashy. It's just basic. Overall, not impressed with it, so I don't take it. Definitely go with Revitalize or Nourish on this tier. Then moving into the final tier, we have Focused Growth. Your Life Bloom will apply Focused Growth to the target, increasing Life Bloom's healing by 15%, and it stacks up to 3 times. So basically, we're going back to Mop and previous stages of Life Bloom, where we could press it multiple times on ourselves, and it would stack up. But at this point, you can see Life Bloom only healing for 6,500. Now in PvP, we have more than 1.5 million health, but even if we have 1.5 million health, 6.5 thousand is not very much. Life Bloom does not heal for very much overall. And I feel like taking so many global cooldowns to stack it up 3 times, to have it purged off by a mage's talent Kleptomania in 1 purge, or to have your opponent switch targets, makes it very frustrating to use overall, and it's just weak. So overall, I don't run focused growth at all. This could change. We're still in beta. Then moving to early spring, this will make your wild growth an instant cast. Now at the moment, wild growth is a cast time, so if you're fighting against a warlock team, and the issue with this talent is that you're going to have to communicate a lot. You want to make sure that you're wild growthing 3 players at least. This will also drain your mana extremely fast, especially if you're just using wild growth on cooldown. But if you're struggling with warlocks, it feels like everyone's dying on your team, you don't know what to do, early spring wild growth with good communication with your team to stack up every time you're going to use it is very powerful. There's a lot of scaling talents on your artifact weapon that benefit wild growth. Wild growth is like one of your best heals in the game, so making an instant cast isn't a bad idea, but I will tell you that you will run out of mana very fast if you're spamming it well. So overall though, if you're having trouble with warlocks, you can take early spring. Then we move into Overgrowth. Now, in my opinion, this is the strongest new ability that's come out for Resto Druids in Legion. With the removal of Nature's Swiftness, we don't have access to a big burst heal, a big instant burst heal, to say. We also lost Genesis. So Genesis allowed us to instantly amplify our rejuve, so they would tick extremely fast and heal some up really quick. So we don't have any quick ways of healing people up. So Overgrowth allows us a little bit of breathing room in that sense. It's a very short cooldown, and it applies all of our hots to a target. And when you pair that talent with Soul of the Forest, which will increase the healing of Rejuvenation and Wild Growth, it benefits the Rejuvenation and Wild Growth from Overgrowth. So those pair up very well together. So I suggest taking those together if you're dealing with burst damage. But I went over previously about Cultivation versus Soul of the Forest, so if you watch the previous talent video, you'll see what situations are best. But overall, Overgrowth is an insanely strong ability that's coming out in Legion for Resto Druid. I definitely put it as the cookie-cutter lock-in talent for the honor system for Resto Druids. And unfortunately, it's level 50 in our grind, so it will be the last ability we unlock, the best for last. But overall, definitely very excited to try out more Resto Druid in Legion. Probably be working on a video of what you should expect rotation-wise, what spells you need to cast to heal your partners, and what order kind of thing. Just a basic Resto Druid guide in the upcoming future. I'll also be doing a Moonkin talent guide as well, so thank you guys overall for watching. I hope this talent video helps you out, and I will see you next time.